Shore. I'm Kayla. Is it alright if I call you Miss Shore?
Or you can just call me Rena.
Okay, Rena. Perfect. Well, I'm so glad to meet you. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for getting me, and I was on a waiting list for a while.
Well, I'm very excited to finally get you in. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how these sessions will go.
Okay.
At the beginning, we're going to set an agenda for the day and figure out what things we need to go over. And if there's anything else you want to add besides what I've said, then just let me know and we'll certainly add them in.
Okay.
This agenda will keep us on track and make sure we can cover everything that you want to cover in the day. I'll usually ask you how you've been doing since our last session and seeing if there's any new issues that pop up. In this session, I will ask you, I want to know what you know about cognitive behavioral therapy too. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Also, just a couple more things. What we'll do today is go over some homework and maybe some self-help activities, just depending on what we find out today through talking. We will also go over your goals for therapy and your expectations for the therapy today. I'll be asking for your feedback and input throughout the session, and then we'll do some summarizations of the things you said at the end of the session. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Perfect. So let's start off with you telling me a little bit more about what brought you here today.
Well, I'm mostly here because my mom, she thinks something's wrong with me. She laid on a thick guilt trip to make me get into therapy. To be honest, I feel like no one loves me, and no one cares about me. Or when people do care about me, I tend to push them away. I feel like my life is in constant turmoil, and nothing ever goes my way. I never get it right. I can't ever follow through with things. I quit school. I don't have a job. I have no money. I just don't understand why I am the way I am.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why you feel like no one loves or cares about you?
Well, since I was born, no one wanted me. My birth mother gave me up. I don't know why my parents adopted me. The only person that ever really loved me was my grandma. And then, then she died, and my parents sent me to live with my grandpa at that time. I was 13, and even after my grandpa died, I stayed in the house by myself until I was 18. And then my folks kicked me out because they want to rent out that house. So I had to go find a new place on my own. And it's not just even that. It's just my mom and I have never gotten along. We always bicker and fight. And then if she doesn't get her way, she lays on that guilt trip so she'll get her way in the end.
So what does it mean to you when your parents made you move?
Well, at the time, it seemed like it was a good idea to me because I got out of Mom's house and out from underneath her thumb. But really, all they wanted to do was farm me out to take care of Grandpa.
Do you think that your mom knows what that meant to you or how it made you feel?
I don't think she cares.
Well, what do you think you can do to let your parents know how you felt or how they made you feel by those things?
I don't know. That's tough. I just don't think they care.
Okay. I'll make a note of that and we'll get back to that a little later if that's all right.
Okay.
But overall, you said you feel like no one around you loves you. You have recognized that you have trouble completing tasks or commitments that you've made, and that you feel like the only way you know how to live your life is when it's kind of in chaos. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's always in chaos.
Okay. So we're going to go on to the next part, and we're going to talk about your mood and your feelings. What would you say is your overall mood of the way life is going for you?
I would say I'm just pretty much lonely and down. I'm just in a bad place all the time.
Okay, well, how about we use a scale? And on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst you ever felt and 10 being the best you ever felt, how would you say like this last week of your life has been?
1 to 10. I don't know. I guess maybe a 4 or a 5.
Okay. Would you be able to give me a general number for about how you feel like your life has been the past whole year in general?
Oh, the last year? Well, so much has happened. Moving and being out on my own and losing my job and quitting school. I would say probably a 3 or a 4.
Seems like you've had some pretty big things that have impacted your life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these will definitely give us some things to talk about throughout our sessions. We also know where we're starting from. You said probably a 4 or 5 for the last week. But overall, that's better than the last year.
Yeah, I suppose. Maybe part of that was just knowing that I finally got the appointment to come in here and maybe finally get some help.
Okay, perfect. We're going to move on to summarizing what we've talked about today and to create a problem list. And this list is going to help us pick out the issues that are important to you and help us map out a treatment plan for you. So would you say that the first problem you want to address are the feelings of loneliness or being unloved?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably the biggest one.
Okay. We'll probably spend the majority of our time on this. What else do you think we should add to the list?
Well, ever since I was young, I haven't been able to finish things. Started in about, I don't know, junior high or so. I'm told that I'm bright and I'm told that I'm talented, and it's like I just can't ever finish anything and can't really quite get it right. Sometimes I even feel like my dad resents me for that.
Why would you think your father resents you?
Well, like, I'm better at, like, mechanical engineering type things than he is, and he's the dad. He's, the man. He should be the one that's good at that. So, I don't know. Sometimes I just get this feeling like, I've done some acting, and that's what he wanted to do, and, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he, resents that I'm a little better at things like that than him. Then I never follow through and complete anything anyway, so it's kind of just a dead end.
How does his possible feeling of resentment make you feel?
Well, like I said, I don't think they ever really wanted me anyway. I think that they thought that they couldn't have kids, so I was the last resort, and so I think it was just convenient anyway.
Well, it sounds like something we should definitely look into. We will certainly focus on the 2 main issues, but we'll consider other things as they may pop up throughout our sessions. So far today we've gone over our agenda, we've talked a little bit about your mood, and we've created our problem list. Now I'd like to get some feedback from you on what your goals and expectations of therapy are. So what are some goals that you would like to set for yourself?
I want to be normal. I want to be happy. And I don't want to feel alone all of the time. If there's something wrong with me, like Mom says, then I want to fix it so I can be okay. I want to do better. I've never seemed able to do it.
Okay. Well, the first thing you said is you want to be normal. What do you think is normal?
Oh, I don't know, like not feeling alone all the time, and maybe, like I said, when I do find boyfriends that care about me, my first reaction is to push them away, and so maybe being in a relationship where I don't have to do that, but I don't know how, so.
You also said that your mom thinks there's something wrong with you. Do you think there's something wrong?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not happy, so doesn't that mean that something has to be wrong?
Well, possibly. We'll certainly get more into that later.
Okay.
So what were your expectations for coming here and for the therapy?
Well, like I said, I'm hoping that you can give me some ideas or some ways that I can get better and be happier and less lonely, and how to just do things better.
Okay. Well, I'm confident that working together we can certainly get you to meet your goals. But can you tell me, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our methods, but to start with, do you know anything about cognitive behavioral therapy?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. The way cognitive behavioral therapy works is that we take your thoughts and the way they affect the way you feel, and in turn affect the way you behave and cope with things going on in your life. I'll ask you questions like what's going through your head when you're telling me about scenarios or things that's going on during the week. And we'll look at the validity of these different thoughts to make sure they're even rational thoughts. And then I'll be asking lots of introspective questions. Does that sound something that's alright with you?
Yeah, that sounds all good. I'm not sure I understand it all, but
Alright. I won't, as we move on through the process, I'll help you understand a little more and things will probably flow together better once we
Okay.
start.
Okay.
But now we're going to talk about the homework. This is a huge part of this therapy.
Homework. No one said anything about homework.
Well, it's not going to be that hard. You said that you have several goals for therapy, and I think that a great homework goal for you is going to be a journal. And in this journal, you're going to write things like the goals that we've come up with, things we talked about, things that come to mind when you're not with me that we can talk about later. Does that sound alright?
Yeah, I already have a journal. I've been using it to keep track of, I don't know, some of my feelings for a while now. Just thought that maybe that could help. So that shouldn't be too hard to be able to keep up with.
Perfect. I have some more homework ideas for you later, but we'll get to those towards the end of our session. That way you don't get too overwhelmed right away.
Okay.
Since we've created our problem list, I would like to review with you how to come to make sense of your problems and putting together all the pieces of the problems to create a treatment plan. This is always a work in progress. So if there's anything wrong, just let me know and we can change it a little bit.
Okay.
But my main concern is making you feel happier and less lonely.
Okay. I would like that a lot.
Alright. Many of the words that you use to describe the way you feel and the things going on in your life and how you're reacting to them makes me feel like you might possibly be depressed.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I might be depressed.
Do you think that maybe other feelings and problems in your life could relate back to being depressed?
I suppose so. I mean, it makes sense when you say it like that. It's just I hadn't really thought of it before.
Well, it appears to me that this is how I'm making sense of everything, that since you were born, you felt like people had kind of given up on you. I mean, your birth mother gave you up, and then you found someone to love you, your grandma. And then after she passed away, your parents eventually lived with your grandpa. And then after he passed away, you continued to live by yourself. So you've been pretty much alone for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Following that, after a while, they asked you to move out of the place you were living. So you probably felt like they were putting you out and abandoning you.
Mm-hmm. No, it was as soon as I turned 18, and that was made perfectly clear from the long before. As soon as you're 18, you're out of here. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like I said, I think that was just convenient for them.
Do you feel like you have lots of problems that relate back to your parents?
Yeah, we don't get along. My mom and I always fight and bicker, and she's pretty intolerable in a lot of ways. And I mentioned if she doesn't get her way, she's gonna lay on the guilt trip until she does get her way, and she's always has to be in control of everything, and no one else can do anything right. She's always on my dad and my brother like that too. It's not just me. She's like that with everybody. My dad, he's just kind of a loser. My brother is his own special case, so I guess we're all a little out there, but yeah, none of us really are close or get along.
Do you think that maybe all your negative thoughts about your family have impacted your relationship with them?
Well, it just kind of is what it is, and it always has been that way.
So back to where I was about them having you move out. These feelings probably made you, the actions reinforce your feelings of being alone and abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
There may be other people in your life who make you feel this way, and we'll get to those later.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to focus on the people around you immediately first.
Okay.
These feelings of abandonment make you feel like giving the fun things when you feel like no one notices or even cares about anything you do. Does that sound probably about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Another thing I want to touch on is I think you may not be able to examine your negative thoughts, so you get stuck in them even though they may not be true.
Okay.
So like what I brought up about your family, you said lots of negative things.
Yeah.
And you may have just been thinking those for so long that that's what you've come to accept for them. But we're going to take those and work on seeing if that's actually true of them.
Okay.
Also, one thing I'm just going to touch on real quick about, so you agreed that you felt like you've been given up your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that it's your birth mom wanted to give you up because of you, or?
Well, I can't imagine, why anyone could give up a baby. Obviously, she didn't want me, and she gave me up and gave me away. And I go to this adoption support group from time to time, and I try to talk to some of the women there who have given up babies for adoption, and a lot of the times they all say, kind of play the sad case at giving up their babies and oh how hard. Well, if it was oh so hard, then why didn't you work harder to keep your baby? And I guess that's one of the questions I would like to ask my birth mother is, what was wrong with me? Why didn't you work harder to keep me? Was it just that easy to toss me away?
Would you say issues about your birth mother is something that you think about a lot?
A lot.
Do you think that's something we should add to your problem list? Something you'd like to address during our session?
Yeah, I think it kind of, it goes in line with always, everybody's always tossing me aside. My parents tossed me out, she threw me away, so I think that's definitely one of the things to kind of work on.
Okay, I'm sure I would love to address that with you. And then you said you feel like your real parents never wanted you around.
Mm.
Do you think that is something that's actually true?
Well, yeah, mom and dad were told they couldn't have kids, so the next best thing is adoption. And grandma always loved me. Grandma always called me her angel and her perfect one, and it was always great being around grandma. But I never felt that mom. I felt like they did it more as an obligation to have a family that they had to rather than they wanted to.
Do you think that there could possibly be other meanings to the reason they adopted you, or the way you feel you've been treated throughout your life?
Well, I don't know. How do you mean?
Well, do you think a couple would just adopt a kid? That's a long process. It's a lot of money, if they really didn't want one.
I suppose it doesn't really make sense that they would go through all that. And they did keep me around for 18 years. They didn't just give me right back. So I suppose there's something to that.
In this first session, we're not going to dig too deep into the issues. We're going to save that for a little later when we have more time.
Okay.
But I will certainly make a note of this and we can come back if you want.
Mm-hmm.
So since we both agree on the last few things we've talked about, let's make a plan to make you happier.
Okay. That sounds good. I would really like that.
All right. Do you have any questions or thoughts right now?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay, good. So we'll be meeting for about 16 weeks, and during these weeks we'll address all your issues on the problem list. Towards the end of our time together, I've been thinking that it might be beneficial to you to have your parents come in for a few sessions.
Ooh, I don't know if they'd be willing to do that.
And why don't you think they'd want to do that?
Well, you just don't know Nancy and how she can be. I don't know. I would be open to it, but I don't know that they will.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's maybe an idea you can start talking with them about? And maybe by the time the end of our sessions come around, they'll be more open to talking?
I can give it a try.
I think that'd certainly help you.
Well, she nagged me to get into therapy because there's something wrong with me. So I guess if I were to say part of the therapy involves you too, then she couldn't really say no.
Hopefully not. Maybe if you start to show some progress and feel that you're actually trying to do better, or what she thinks is better, then maybe she'll be more willing to. So just gotta work real hard.
Okay.
But on top of meeting with me, I'm going to recommend some other services that you might find beneficial. I think that you might benefit from seeing a doctor and possibly looking at medication.
You mean like antidepressants?
Exactly. I feel like From what you've told me, it's been a long line of not being happy and feeling lonely, so it's not like a recent thing. So medication might help you.
Okay, I would be open to seeing a doctor.
Okay. I think you might also want to look into some vocational rehab, and what that will do is help you get a job or get training and possibly even get back into school.
I've got to do something. I really want to do something with my life. I started pre-med, it just didn't finish. I have no money. I have 13 cents in my wallet and my checking account is overdrawn. I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. So, I have to do something.
Well, sometimes there are even programs where you can go live and work, and they can provide you with schooling all in the same place. So you can certainly look into those options to help you.
Okay.
That's something you'd want to do?
Yes.
All right, so here's a list of the contacts. When you're ready, I'll let you go ahead and call them. I don't want to push anything on you right away.
Okay.
But would you like me to check in with you in a couple weeks about this?
Yeah, that would probably be good to give me a reminder.
Not a problem. I will certainly do that for you. So now we're going to move on to your homework.
Okay, homework.
So we talked about the journal already, and I want you to try and write in that every day, if not more, like a couple times a day. But for sure, at the end of every day, I want you to use that 1 to 10 scale we talked about earlier.
Okay.
And I want you to just write what you think the day was like.
Okay.
I also want you to write about things like when you were feeling especially down or lonely, maybe what was going on or what caused you to feel like that.
Okay. That's kind of what I've been doing up until now, so that, like I said, that shouldn't be too hard for me to keep up with.
Okay. Would you feel comfortable bringing your journal to sessions and going over that with me?
Sure.
Okay. We'll start off our next session with that.
Okay.
Just so you know. Also, another part of homework. Since you feel down and lonely a lot, I want you to think of, write a list of things that you enjoy doing.
Okay.
Like if you enjoy music or dancing or baking, I want you to make a list of those things, and we'll use that in our next session.
Okay.
For the next step of the process.
All right, I can do that.
And I have one more tool for you. This is a dysfunctional thought record. And you don't have to do this every day. Maybe if something big happens, you write it down.
Okay.
What you're going to do first is write the date and the time. That way you can kind of remember when it was. The next thing is the situation. What is happening? For example, like, we'll go back to when your parents kicked you out.
Okay.
In the next column, we're going to write your automatic thoughts. What you thought right away when they did that. Like, no one loved you. No one wanted you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Good. Then in the next column, you're going to write emotion and how all of this has made you feel so far.
Okay.
What kind of emotions do you think that situation would have made you feel?
Oh, very, very sad. Very alone. Very abandoned.
That's what I would have said too if I were you. Then in the next column, we're going to write this. We're going to go to the back of the page.
Okay.
And these are all common distortions of our thoughts.
Okay.
And you're just going to kind of read through them and maybe find one that fits with what you were thinking.
Okay.
For this one, it's probably like, since it is your parents and they're kicking you out, you're probably really emotionally attached to the situation, so you're probably having a distorted emotional reasoning for that.
Okay.
Then write that, and then the next one is alternative thoughts. So instead of what your automatic thought was, what do you think could be other possible thoughts or reasoning behind what they did? Like, maybe they thought you were grown up and responsible enough and thought you could live on your own. Or maybe they thought you wanted your own space.
No,
Those kind of things.
I've never thought of it that way. Yeah. I suppose they probably needed to rent out the apartment to make some money because they don't have any money either.
Yeah, that's another good alternative thought.
Okay. I I see where you're going with this.
And then the last one is just the outcome and how did these alternative thoughts make you feel? Like maybe encouraged, or if they maybe the money moving up made you feel helpful.
Yeah, it actually makes me feel a little bit better that they didn't just kick me out to get rid of me, but because they had to.
Exactly. So if you want, you can do this with new situations, or if there's things that you're thinking about from the past, maybe write those down and go through them and try to work through them by yourself, and then bring that back next time, and we'll look through it.
Okay.
And if you really like it, we can keep doing that.
All right, we can do that.
Do you have any questions for me right now?
No, I think that's a lot of information, so I just hope I remember it all.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this too. I want to get better.
Good.